Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for convening this timely and incredibly important hearing. I had a written statement, but to be frank, I'm still seething from some of what occurred in this chamber a moment ago. And I guess it's impossible anymore to be disappointed when you are no longer surprised. I, serve on this august institution and this committee with colleagues across the aisle who deny science and the climate crisis, who believe that because we've had a black president, we live in a post-racial America, who think that being poor is a character flaw, who believe that we still live, or we ever did, in a meritocracy, who espouse the redemption of Christ's love and grace, but only believe in second chances for a selective few. So I should not be surprised that they think we're being dramatist about voter suppression. Forgive them, Father, for they know not what they do. I just wanted to say thank you. To have the honor to serve in Congress with your fellow freedom rider, John Lewis. And I wonder if some of the comments that were said here today, my colleagues would ever say directly to John Lewis, who they consider to be a national treasure. But I digress. Let's get to the matter at hand here. I just know that I'm 46 years old. I've been doing movement building work since I was 10 years old. My mother was a tenants' rights organizer in Chicago. Harold Washington's campaign was the first one I worked on. I would not be here as the first person of color and black woman to represent Massachusetts in the House of Representatives. That took 230 years. And I know I owe a debt to each of you that I can say that. So I just want to say thank you. And I apologize and completely disassociate myself from the comments that were said earlier by my colleague across the aisle. What I want to talk about is mass incarceration. Certainly, our mass incarceration crisis has further exacerbated many of the challenges that we've already enumerated here today. And these issues are intrinsically linked. Millions of individuals across the nation have been arbitrarily and permanently stripped of their right to vote due to involvement in the criminal injustice system. These policies disproportionately impact black and brown communities. In fact, 1 in 13 black Americans of voting age are disenfranchised on the account of this broken system. And they continue to have their bodies where they're being warehoused, counted, and included in this census for the suburban communities for which they're usually housed. But that is a conversation and a debate for another day as well. We have seen some states moving forward with re-enfranchising individuals who were formerly incarcerated. Ms. Johnson-Blanco, you point out the importance of the passage of the Amendment 4 in Florida, which would re-enfranchise 1.4 million people. But now we see these newly restored rights in Florida under attack. How do these court fee requirements compare to the poll taxes that emerged in some states during the Jim Crow era?
I think it's comparable. The 11th Circuit, which recently ruled against the fines and fees provision that the legislature imposed to those who have their rights restored under Amendment 4, noted that the fines and fees law places those returning citizens who can pay at an advantage over those returning citizens who can't pay. So what the new law is saying is that in order for you to have your rights fully restored, you have to be able to pay to have a fundamental right that 65% of your fellow citizens said that you were entitled to.
Okay, and so for the purposes of the record, what should formerly incarcerated individuals do to ensure they can exercise their newly restored rights? Since last year alone, Kentucky restored voting rights to 140 1,000 people, and Louisiana restored the right to roughly 36,000 individuals. So for the record, what should they do?
They should make sure they vote. They register and vote and take advantage of these new laws, these new rights that have been afforded to them.
All right, very good. I also just wanted to ask the question, actually, I just want to make a point. In 2018 in Georgia, 7 polling locations were suddenly closed by Republican lawmakers before the midterm election. They cited the ADA intended to protect the nation's disabled communities as a pretext to disenfranchise minority voters. Had the U.S. Supreme Court not gutted the Voting Rights Act in 2013, the closures would most likely have been blocked by the DOJ. But without oversight from the DOJ, Republican lawmakers acted nefariously. So we reject false choices that purport that access to the polls must be bartered between vulnerable and disenfranchised folks. And with the balance of my time, I just urge my colleagues to pick their heads up and to defend access to the ballot for everyone. And again, I thank each of you freedom riders.